that virtue is up for sale. Let me tell you, okay? So she did an interview with Time Magazine where they asked her, what about the Uyghur situation in China?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Welcome to Rivera and Reeves, a podcast where we break through the bias, report the news, and occasionally trip over our soapboxes while ranting about the headlines.
Every week, we tackle the biggest stories with sharp analysis, unfiltered honesty, and just enough sarcasm to keep it fun.
So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and join us as we wade through the spin, because the media is trash and we have zero patience for their nonsense.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Rivera and Reeves. I'm Meseidy and I'm here with my friend Rachel and her tissue and stuffy nose. How are you doing, girl?
I'm here. And that is probably my only contribution today. I am unwell, but I am heavily medicated. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh my goodness, you poor thing.
Well, it is what it is.
We are, if you guys are thinking like, where were you Tuesday or did I miss Tuesday's episode? You did not miss it. We took an impromptu little break. It was kind of a slow news because of President's Day and the holiday. And then, there was a little bit of news, but it was slow. And then I had some technical difficulties. X was down on Monday, weirdly. Like, it was all kinds of things. So You did not miss a Tuesday episode. We took a little short hiatus, but we are back. And if this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you're listening. We're on all major podcast apps, on YouTube, and our primary platform, which is Substack. On Substack, you get ad-free episodes if you become a paying subscriber, and you also get our full library of unfiltered episodes. And every unfiltered episode, which is now live the last Saturday of every month at 11:30 a.m. Which
so next
actually
week,
next Saturday. So next Saturday, we're going to be having another unfiltered live where we basically just kind of talk about the things that we couldn't talk about. It's very, very much off the cuff, but now you also get to join us and ask us questions while we're doing the live. And that is exclusive to paying subscribers on the Rivera and Reeves Substack. There is a link in the show notes for that. So what are we talking about today? There's lots of news. I mean, kind of, partly because we took the day off, but also there's just a whole truckload.
Yes, there is.
Of news right now. Breaking news. We'd like to do, if there's some breaking news, we like to do it right up at the top. So first thing I saw when I woke up this morning is that Prince Andrew, which is the brother to the King
Charles.
King Charles. I'm like trying to remember all these people. Okay.
Well, it's not our monarchy. It's theirs. So
yeah, exactly. Well,
and you're already bad with our elected officials. We can't expect you to know in other countries.
I do have his name though. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, because also he got booted as Prince.
Ex-Prince
was arrested this morning on his 66th birthday. Okay. On royal grounds, because I don't know where he's living now, but he's not, in a private home or anything like that. Like, he was on royal grounds. And he was arrested. Now, a lot of people are thinking that it does have to do with Epstein. It does have to do with the recent DOJ release of Epstein files, but this doesn't have to do with any sex crime allegations or anything. This specifically has to do with sharing confidential state secrets, essentially, with Epstein. So when he was trade envoy, I think this was up until 2021. I think it was like 2011 to 2021. He would send sensitive information, UK government information, to Epstein for advice.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
I mean, now that they've arrested him on that, and because I'm not exactly clear on how they go about their judicial system and how it differs from ours, could they later charge him after he's already been charged with these crimes with sex crimes or are they just doing this kind of like to appease the masses and say,
no, the emails, I think there's legitimacy there. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations issue because this is 2021, but this is UK. I can't speak to that.
Right.
But there is evidence that he is sending sensitive information, government information, to someone who is not of the UK government.
Yeah.
for advice. Like he's like, you know, asking his friend, what do you think? Who should I connect with? Do you have any connections? Like this guy isn't cleared.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty big deal in regards to governance and state secrets.
Yes.
I think anything that has to do with any kind of sex crime allegations, that would be additional.
Yeah.
And it also brings up the question of, which was my first thought, like the question of jurisdiction, because if he does something and it's not in the UK, like let's say there's evidence.
He went to Epstein's Island and did something.
Yeah. Well, it's not UK jurisdiction, so I don't know if anything criminal could be charged in the UK. You know, I mean, he's already lost his position. He's already like up a creek.
Persona
and
non
now
grata.
he's been arrested.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not just him. It's also Fergie has been very dependent on him. Like she hasn't done anything for herself. They've been living together, even they've been divorced for ages. His daughters are what, 9th and 10th in line, or 10th and 11th in line, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like this is in UK world. This is a big deal. I don't think any royal has ever been arrested.
The last time a royal has been arrested was 400 years ago.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure that was like probably a made up charge because they just wanted to get him off the throne or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is big. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It was breaking news all over the place. Most accounts, though, however, asterisk, are framing this as if it was sex crime charges or it comes from the Epstein, you know, files. So therefore it has to be related in that sense. And it's becoming like, well, you know, the United States doesn't do anything about it, but the UK is doing something about the sex crimes and the victims and when this has nothing to do with any of the victims or any of those trafficking allegations. This is a completely separate situation. Yeah. So if somebody says that to you, you heard it here.
You heard it here first.
And then I also want to acknowledge that we are fully aware that there is a buildup going on right now in the Middle East. I've covered it a little bit on my brief yesterday, and there's multiple tracks happening right now. You had Jared Kushner and Steve Wilkoff, I got his name, who doing they were doing negotiations with Iranian officials. I can't remember exactly where they were.
I don't remember.
It wasn't in Iran, obviously. It was, I think, in Geneva. Yeah, I believe it was in Geneva.
Okay.
So that was happening at the same time that we're seeing a massive buildup move into Iran. Then at the time that the administration is saying that they're making some progress in the negotiations, the what is it? The Ayatollah made a comment that he's basically going to blow up the American ships if they keep pushing. And just today, Trump said during the Board of Peace, because they're meeting today for the first time in D.C., that in 10 days, that Iran has 10 days to make a decision.
Basically, we'll know what's going to happen in 10 days.
Yeah.
But does that clock start now, or does that clock start like a couple days ago?
My assumption is that it starts now.
Okay.
I don't know, especially since he mentioned it today during the Board of Peace. But let's also acknowledge that he has a track record of being like, you got 2 weeks and then
bam.
Exactly. On Sunday, we're dropping bombs on Iran. This one is a much bigger deal and very different from Venezuela or the previous strike on Iran, because this will likely be, I mean, people are conservatively saying almost like a 2-week operation or 11-day operation. So this isn't going to be one of those in and out situations, which is one of the reasons that the president, and I assuming with the advice of JD Vance and Marco Rubio, have been very like, this really has to be a last resort. But I also think he's kind of set himself up a little bit in that so much buildup, he kind of has, either Iran has to do something or we have to do something. Because otherwise it's a game of chicken that ends with Trump changing his mind. So, and I know I've been getting a lot of messages from spouses that are in the military, that there's a lot of activity going on and that their spouses are on alert. So we are well aware that stuff is building up.
We're paying attention.
So also make sure that you're following our friend Amanda Peterson on Instagram, because she is all over this type of stuff.
Yeah. TikTok.
Or her Substack also.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about kind of elections across the board. We're coming into the midterms. So, I mean, honestly, the start off of the midterms, it happens next week with the State of the Union.
Yeah.
If you want to.
It's Tuesday night. We're going to be watching.
For sure. So over the weekend, this past weekend, I think actually it started on Friday, the Munich Security Conference began. This was the same conference that J.D. Vance attended last year, where he did this really great speech. So at this year's, there seems to have been an attempt or a soft launch for AOC and other Democrat presidential hopefuls to present themselves on the national stage and kind of present their foreign policy chops, which were lacking pretty significantly.
That was made clear.
Not just, I mean, we're going to predominantly talk about AOC, but even so, AOC was there, Gretchen Whitmer was there, Gavin Newsom. Who else was there? I feel like somebody else was there too.
I mean, like Hillary Clinton was there, and who knows why, but she was there.
Yeah, but Hillary Clinton, I actually, like, Hillary Clinton was on like B-list panels.
I know, and she didn't even do good, and she got all irritated and emotional.
She
telling
got
you ladies,
really uppity.
The ladies are always getting emotional. Like, that's their default. They cannot handle it. Who were we just talking about last week who gets all like...
Bondi. It was Bondi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the cold medicine. You can't remember.
I can't. Sorry.
So last week, AOC attended the Munich Security Conference, and is this her first time in one of these conferences? Because she doesn't even serve on the House Foreign Affairs Committee or Armed Services Committee, so this isn't like her bag, okay? But she has been widely viewed or being kind of primed or set up to be one of the top choices for the 2028 Democrat presidential hopefuls.
Right.
In fact, I would say that, like, I listen to Dan Turnentine often on Two-Way, and he has had her at the top of the list along with Gavin Newsom for a while. And since this meet or this event in Munich, he's kind of been like, oh, maybe she's not exactly ready for prime time. And a lot of people are feeling this way. Yeah. Contrast with Marco Rubio, who delivered a major keynote that day, which was not just focused on our allyship with European countries, but our common heritage and culture when it comes to the West. And I have a segment of that speech for you guys here.
Yay, I'm always here for that.
And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history. What we want is a reinvigorated alliance that recognizes that what has ailed our societies is not just a set of bad policies, but a malaise of hopelessness and complacency. An alliance is the alliance that we want is one that is not paralyzed into inaction by fear. Fear of climate change, fear of war, fear of technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future. And the only fear we have is the fear of the shame of not leaving our nations prouder, stronger, and wealthier for our children. An alliance ready to defend our people, to safeguard our interests, and to preserve the freedom of action that allows us to shape our own destiny. Not one that exists to operate a global welfare state and atone for the purported sins of past generations. An alliance that does not allow its power to be outsourced, constrained, or subordinated to systems beyond its control. One that does not depend on others for the critical necessities of its national life. And one that does not maintain the polite pretense that our way of life is just one among many, and that asks for permission before it acts.
It was so good. It was a great
It was so
speech.
good.
Start
There
to
was
finish.
a lot of highlights, and it's like a
Uh-huh.
20-minute speech. Like,
And I
that's just a
think you'd be
little piece.
hard pressed to find another Secretary of State's speech that surpasses that. I mean, there's been, great speeches in the past, obviously, but he has such a presence and he knows what he's talking about. And you can tell when somebody's saying something because it's been written and they have to deliver the speech. And you can tell when someone's saying something because they actually believe it. And I think I know people don't agree with me, but I think Rubio keeps going at this clip.
Yeah.
He's going to have, but that is assuming that he would actually say, yeah, I want to get in the race, but looking very presidential to me.
Well, and the speech was like, not only was it was interesting because it just shows his gift, because he's saying the same thing. The administration's in unison about their messaging, about their focus.
Yeah, but
J.D.
Trump could say
Vance-
something like that, and he could say something like that, and everybody's going to be like, "Wrap it up, Trump." But people are spellbound when he talks. He just has a way about him.
Even
Go ahead.
Even when J.D. Vance did his speech, J.D. is much more forward. He's much more aggressive. He's much more blunt. And so it's not received quite in the same way, as opposed to Marco. He got a standing ovation afterwards.
Yeah, he's very, it feels approachable and it feels measured, while also being super resolute. He was like that when he spoke at Charlie Kirk's memorial service, the big memorial service.
Yeah.
It was, I think, one of the most underrated speeches. I didn't hear tons and tons of people talking about Marco Rubio's, but it was so clear what he was trying to say, and he was resolute, and he really does have a gift. He's really good at that. So,
well, and then several times he even not only talked about the allyship, but our connection with culture in Europe. And he specifically brought up multiple times Western civilization, which
I know where you're going with this.
Was not something that AOC was particularly fond of.
Of course not.
And there was multiple missteps that she shared.
Oh my gosh, so
one
many.
Of which,
please tell me we're going to talk about all of them, though.
I have all of them.
Okay,
I have the key ones. Let's put it this way. So one of them being her issues with his points of Western civilization, and specifically when he connected the cowboy heritage to Spain. And
oh my word. Please play it immediately.
Please play that immediately.
It hurt.
You are starting to see the ascent of the right, even in places like Munich. Marco Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture.
Yes, because
my favorite
we're
part was when
live
he
in
said
Western
that,
culture.
American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought that
Wow.
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that. But I think it's
come on.
also important to
amazing.
know how thin that foundation is. Culture is changing. Culture always changed. Culture for the entire history of human civilization has been a fluid, evolving thing that is a response to the conditions that we live in. And so they want to take this mantle of culture. At the end of the day, though, it is very thin. And
She already
so
said that.
the response that we have to have is, again, it's material, it's class-based, it's common interest.
Her argument there is that what unites us isn't our culture, it isn't our history, it isn't our past, it's not what we all have in common. It's our oppression, it is our class status, it's
our whiteness,
economics. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what she's talking about there.
Talk about racism, though, for her to be like, well, the Mexicans and the
woman's name
descendants
is
of
Cortez.
Your family, literally, like, you are the descendant, okay? Like
I
how
don't
she
even
thinks, I don't know.
understand.
No,
Because
I don't know.
to me,
You-
it's just
her
very telling
own-
of like
But like
that.
her own ancestors, like they brought horses to Mexico, okay, in like the 1500s. And that's spread through America and birthed cowboy culture. So what he's saying is like actually correct, but that's lost on her, and she has to do these racist nods to the supposed, like, you know, oppressed people, the Mexicans, the descendants of African slaves, and then act like I mean, it's very interesting that everybody else can have a culture, you know, African Americans can have a culture, Hispanic people can have a culture, Asian Americans can have a culture. But if you talk about European, Anglo-Saxon, um, often white people, they're not allowed a culture. It's literally just you are white, you kind of live amongst us, we share a culture with you. It's fluid, it's ever evolving. And I don't think that she understands, or she does, how racist she sounds. It's really, you know, it's blatant, it's obvious. And also too, how she's really giving Kamala Harris a run for her money with the word salad situation. There's no big words, there's no, it's all just these kind of
It's
milk
very like
toast.
feeling.
Feeling based. Well,
Emotive,
she's a
yeah.
female. It's all going to be emotional. It's all going to be, you know, appealing to people's first reactions as opposed to appealing to history, appealing
Well,
to
and
what, you know, knowledge, factual data, you know.
to me, it's just a sign, like when you talk about knowledge, history, data, it's because her mindset only starts with the current perceptions of oppression. Like she completely
Yeah.
forgets, like that's always the case. You completely forget about all of the past and the history of how actually Africans, Asians, like every Arabs, like every culture has engaged in slavery in one way or another.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I'm only thinking about how it affects me
Yeah.
directly because
Well,
nothing
because
existed
the
before.
world began.
Correct.
The world began when America began, which is
Correct.
actually
Kind of,
yeah. I just it's really
it's very
sad
Western
to-
centric.
It is, which is so interesting because she gets mad that we're talking about Western civilization, except for the fact that we exist within Western civilization and that has built most of the world. There's a pride that should be there that we all should have. But that there is no pride when it comes to being someone of European descent that came to America and settled here and conquered and built. You know, we cannot talk about that. Everybody else can have a heritage except for if you are related to European descendants that came over here.
Oh, you mean like she is?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so it's interesting to me too. Like you would think that her talking about heritages, well, I guess she doesn't care about it though, because she says it's always ever evolving and fluid. So I guess it doesn't matter. But you know, why isn't she wanting to tap into her heritage, the rich heritage that brought something that has evolved into like a
Yeah,
really
but,
big
I
part
mean,
of American culture?
But that mindset, what she'll tap into is how the Tainos on the island, because she's Puerto Rican, she's a Puerto Rican heritage. So she'll only talk about how the Native American or the Native Tainos on the island were then colonized and oppressed and taken out by the evil Europeans.
So
And
that we
so-
erased their heritage is what she would say.
Correct. And it's just like, you know, so that's where the bubble, the mind, as opposed to like, look, I can acknowledge that happened, but also I have to acknowledge that I wouldn't exist if like the Spaniards didn't colonize Puerto Rico.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you can't have it both ways. Like you have to,
I posted-
acknowledge the good and the bad.
Right. I posted her video on Instagram, and I had a couple of my more progressive friends being like, they were saying things about cowboy culture, which I think is so interesting that all of a sudden they like understand it. But I asked them like if they could define like Spanish and like vaquero. I know I'm not saying it like a
No,
I'm
you're
saying it
not,
like,
but that's
oh,
okay.
gringo. But they didn't even know what I was talking about. I'm like, so you really do think that?
But
like,
okay.
Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Let me just before like we're gonna move on, but like, for full context, the cow and the horse. Okay, the cow was not on the Americas. The horse was extinct for thousands of years before the Spanish came over. When the Spanish came over, they started to use a word for the cow.
What was
Vaca.
it?
Vaca.
Vaca.
Okay. Vaca,
Mhm.
which means cow, which is also vaquero, which means
Uh-huh.
a person who handles cows. Okay.
Yes.
And that's
Interesting.
where the
That
word
wasn't
of
mentioned by
cowboy comes from.
AOC.
There's a little history there for you.
I'm sorry. I just am asking people to, I mean, I understand the public school system, the education system in America has not done people any favors. And AOC is like, what is she, 28, 29 years old? I mean,
No,
she's a
she's
baby.
30. She's 34. She's 36, actually.
So,
yeah,
but still, you're right. She has no excuse. She should have read a history book since she graduated. But they're not learning anything about anything like this. They really do think that America is a monolith, that it was just white people who came over first, ruined everything. Now we're left with the scraps of any culture that existed before we got here and made a mess of everybody and gave everybody diseases and then conquered everything. Like, it really is what they think. And that is on display.
Not only did she struggle with just general American history, she also struggled on probably one of the biggest foreign policy questions that the U.S. has to deal with.
Now, wasn't this after the commentator too was like, well, when you become president? So I'm like, okay, we're doing that. We're saying that this could possibly happen.
She was on 2 panels. She was also asked about like if she became president, whether she would do a wealth tax or something along those lines.
Mhm.
And she was like, look, you don't have to wait for me to become president. I think we should do it all. That was
Right
like
now.
her answer.
Yeah.
But this one specifically was the one that really blew up, and it's regarding Taiwan.
Offer. And to all of you, and Congressman, I'll start with you, would and
you're
should
right.
the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a, this is of course a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Wow.
So after a 20-second pause, she eventually spits something out. And it's like, let's just make sure that we don't get to that result.
Wow.
When the standing policy of the United States when it comes to Taiwan is ambiguity.
Yeah.
It's like,
Because there's a one China policy. So
correct.
that we observe, and then it's always kind of but please don't cross this line, this invisible line. Don't try to take Taiwan, but we realize it's yours, but we're not going to talk about it. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Again, the fact that this woman could, like, if she ran in 2028, there's a real possibility that humans that I know would be like, well,
we'll vote for her.
we got to elect her because the Republicans are very bad. And she could sit in the Oval Office with,
Yeah.
It's beyond me.
Well, okay, here's the deal. She had other flubs too, okay? She was talking about Venezuela and how the United States went and captured their president, even if he's a dictator, that we need to have respect for these countries, even if they're below the equator. Venezuela is north of the equator.
Right.
There was like little things like that. She talked a lot about what I think the crux of her presence there was to talk about the Democrat policy, the most progressive Democrat policy, which is about populism, but an explanation of how income inequality is leading to a rise in right-wing authoritarianism, when what we really need to do is essentially create bigger government and address the needs of the people because of income disparities. Like that's basically the focus of what her message was. However, she had these flubs. She had the Spain flub. She had the Taiwan flub. She didn't know where Venezuela was. She did word salads. And so after these started to go viral, what a competent politician would do would be take them head on, make a comment on them, make fun of themselves, acknowledge them, or spin it in some other direction.
Yeah.
Her team, CNN reported that her team decided to curtail, that's a quote, her appearances, which basically means she went and hid in a hole.
Yep.
Okay.
Because she knew how bad it was.
Correct. And then she goes and calls up a reporter, Kellen Browning, over at the New York Times to complain about how she did not like essentially how she's being reported, that she doesn't like where the focus is. That
Well,
the
if you
focus
don't
on-
like where the focus is, then learn what you're talking about, or just learn to say, you know what, I don't feel confident enough to answer that, but let me do some research and I'll get back to you. Like that is, it's very easy. It's very easy to not say anything when you don't know what you're talking about. I do it all the time.
I mean, it's kind of a requirement, and honestly, it's a skill. And if you end up on a national stage and you freeze and you stumble, and you can't declare your working class vision on which is what you think you're strongest on, then you may not be ready for prime time.
You think?
Now, of course, the left-wing outlets, they either lauded her or they downplayed her stumbles, or they said, like, look, she's not a foreign policy expert. Well, I'm like, well, then why are you in Munich?
She's not an American history expert either, apparently. So what is she the expert in? That's my question.
Yeah, it was wild. So,
It's been a
I
rough
don't
couple days for AOC.
For sure. And she has not been particularly pleasant. And she did not manage the situation particularly well.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about someone who's really managed the situation well, and I think has pulled a pretty excellent con, and that is James Telerico. He is a Senate candidate for Texas, and he is running in the Democrat primary in Texas against Jasmine Crockett. Okay. If you guys have been watching and you've been following, and especially if you've been subscribed to my Substack, I'm a little weirdly obsessed with this guy. I acknowledge. Okay. I've been talking about James Telerico like for a year now or something. I'm like, I don't trust this guy.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example. So, quick summation. So, James Telerico was on and was interviewed on the late night show with Colbert, right?
Yes.
In the process or following or during the time at some point during that interview, CBS executives or CBS attorneys advised Colbert on the equal time clause that the FCC has now started to enforce. So the FCC typically doesn't enforce it on hard news or and that sort of thing, but because the talk shows, especially the late night talk shows, have become so partisan focused, FCC is starting to enforce these equal time rules, or considering it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And because of this, CBS attorneys advised Colbert that he would have to give equal time to Telerico's opponent, and that includes Jasmine Crockett.
And a few other like smaller names.
Yes.
One is kind of kooky crazy. So, well, that's what I've heard. I actually haven't paid much attention to the other two. I've just been paying attention to Jasmine and
to Crockett. Yeah. So he came out, he being Colbert and Telerico, and they made these comments, and they basically said that that Telerico was supposed to be on, and actually, do I have it? No, I don't. Okay. That Telerico was supposed to be on the show, and that he was barred from having him on, which is not correct. No, he was not. He could have just had Jasmine Crockett on, and he could have had Telerico on. It ended up being published on YouTube. It got millions of views. Then Telerico goes and he reposted it, and he's like, this is what the FCC barred Colbert. So it turned into this whole talking point of freedom of speech, of authoritarianism, oppression, when the FCC never said anything to CBS about this incident.
They literally just said, we're going to flag you if, because this is a longstanding rule. We need to do it.
Well, the FCC didn't even say that. CBS said there's a possibility that the FCC will do this.
Would get flagged. So Brendan Carr didn't actually say anything at all. I feel like he did.
So he has said it in the sense of like, I mean, I would be unfair to not point out that there's definitely been like an air of like the potentiality of something happening. But did Brendan Carr or anybody at the FCC pick up the phone and say, hey, I heard you're going to have James Telerico on. You can't have him on if you don't give equal time. You better watch out. No, that did not happen.
So this was really just publicity stunt put on by Colbert. And how much money did Telerico raise in the time when all this was happening?
$2.5 million. Okay.
Crazy.
And I want to play this for you because this little clip here, I stumbled upon it, which nobody's playing this. And I was just like, this guy is a sneaky snake liar. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And the 24 hours before this tour launch has been something else. Last night, I filmed an interview with Stephen Colbert on The Late Show. And as you probably know by now, Trump's FCC colluded with corporate media executives at CBS to keep that interview off the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that their plan backfired. I think Donald Trump and his billionaire friends know that we're about to take back Texas.
I mean, he is flat out saying that the FCC and CBS executives colluded to keep Telerico off the air.
What happened to like the Christian virtue of telling the truth?
Bro, I'm telling you, this guy is a snake. Now, the statement from CBS was the Late Show was not prohibited by CBS from broadcasting the interview. The show was provided legal guidance and the broadcast could trigger the FCC equal time rule. And it was, they didn't say this, but it was Colbert that decided not to do that, which I find really interesting because this means that Colbert did not want to have Jasmine Crockett on.
I mean, would you?
Well, no, but like, let's just think about that, okay?
No,
because there's a whole other context to all of this, okay?
I mean, I hate it that I'm actually kind of rooting for Jasmine Crockett right now, where I'm like, give Jasmine Crockett time, Stephen Colbert.
I want her to win the primary. I'm not going to lie. That's the thing. Like, all of this is because they don't believe that Jasmine Crockett is electable. So Colbert, I would say, colluded with Telerico. This is my theory. There's no evidence of this. To do this whole production, this whole show, to get more eyes on Telerico, the Streisand effect, okay? This is happening the day that early voting started in Texas.
Yep. Oh, boy.
And this is also all happening with the backdrop of Telerico facing some drama in his primary. Because back at the beginning of February, there was a TikToker that worked on Telerico's campaign that said that in a conversation, and she's black, this TikToker, she alleges that Telerico told her privately that one of the other candidates, his name is, last name is Allred, I can't remember his first name, he's not in the race anymore, but he said that he was, that he had signed up to run against a mediocre black man. So then that turned into whole, like, she was shocked. That's a racist statement. He's a white man. He's this white Christian guy. And now on top of that, you're sidelining a black woman.
It's not a good look, Telerico.
And their polls right now, Crockett's 47 and Telerico's at 39. So don't tell me this wasn't like
very much planned.
Absolutely. There is no question. And right now, the Democrats, especially establishment Democrats, are loving Telerico. They love him because he's white. They love him because he wears the Christian
skin suit.
Yes, thank you. The skin suit. I think that's a perfect,
That's exactly what it is.
And they think that this will give them the upper hand to finally flip a Senate seat in Texas. And I mean, it all kind of depends. Like, it could get really tight depending on who ends up winning the primary for the Republicans.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, to me, this whole game, I was like flabbergasted by it because it is a new way to do politics. You know what I mean? Because you have these, like, we're no longer 3 channels that are gate kept by the FCC, you know, like now you have YouTube that's going to get more eyes. You have social media. And he raised $2.5 million in 24 hours.
Off a lie.
Off a lie. I mean, like, literally, he goes, and the thing is that this is the problem that we have right now. He goes to this rally and he tells all these people, the administration colluded with 2 bad people. The administration is the bad guy and big business or billionaires or corporations are bad guys. So naturally, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, that checks. That makes sense. They're not going to believe, even if they listen to this podcast and get a full explanation, they're not going to believe
Doesn't
me.
matter. It's
They're
just
going to be like,
reinforcing
you're
their
naive. You
preconceived.
just
Yeah.
yeah. Like, it's freaking wild. And all of this, I think, sets an interesting stage because we have AOC setting herself up for the presidency. You have this new game of politics that is kind of playing out in these, like, for example, in the Senate race. And the administration is gearing up for the midterms. Because like I said, we got the State of the Union is happening on Tuesday. And I would argue that that's like midterm kickoff.
Yeah.
And leading up to that, there were reports that Susie Wiles and James Blair, who is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, and he's also like the main political brain, along with Susie Wiles, had a meeting with, I think it was like, I mean, it was a huge group of people.
It was a
wasn't
large
just, like,
group. Yeah.
White House staff. It was all like, it was also, in addition, cabinet heads. So everybody from, like literally everyone. I think Bessent was there, Bondi was there, Kennedy was there, like even like departments that you wouldn't really associate with midterm elections, they were all there. And this happened on Tuesday. And it was a closed door strategy meeting at the Capitol Hill Club, which is known to be a Republican club.
Friendly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so at this meeting, there was a few things that were discussed. So they had a pollster there, Tony Fabrizio, and he talked specifically about like, what are we going to do for the midterms? What should our focus be? And it is the economy. He was like, no longer is it immigration. No longer is it foreign policy. And he argues that it's not even Epstein. It's the economy.
Yeah, it's
the primary
affordability.
issue.
Been saying it forever. It's affordability, affordability, affordability. The average price of a new car right now is $50,000. People
That's
cannot buy
crazy.
houses. I know people can't buy houses. People can't afford their rent. They don't feel like grocery prices have come down. Yeah, sure, maybe gas has, but people are squeezed and they do not care if they have to pick in order of importance. Is it Epstein or the economy? They're going to pick the economy. I mean, they can still care about Epstein. Obviously, we should, but they need to really talk more about that. And they haven't been messaging that enough lately. They've killed it with the immigration stuff. They've done great. But now we need to pivot.
And just they've been so effective with immigration. I mean, besides the whole Minneapolis situation.
But just closing the border and deportations. They've
It's
done
no
great.
longer an issue. It's no longer
so
a winning issue. And people
they
are
need
like,
to
okay,
pivot.
awesome. You did that. Now we need
Now
you to
do
take
this.
care.
Because you're going to
this.
have the Democrats coming out and saying, we'll solve affordability. We're going to tax the rich. And we're going to give you a bunch of social services. And we're going to build a bunch of, affordable housing in places, which really isn't going to impact tons and tons and tons of people, but it's going to sound nice. So they need to message out some tangible things that they're going to do.
Well, a few of the things that they brought up, which I guess are kind of not necessarily adjacent, but they were interesting, were key messaging that resonates was, and this was in the polling, was banning congressional stock trading, health insurance transparency, lower drug prices, and then, an emphasis on the Trump tax cuts in addition to housing affordability, which are all kind of under the umbrella of, they're all under the umbrella of economics and affordability.
Yeah.
So, they talked about how it's very rare to not hold the House, or to hold the House, I should say, that it's very rare to hold the House during a midterm. But it sounds like the strategy here is going to be very different from previous administrations. So typically, the president keeps kind of minding his own business. He does the work, and the midterm elections are left to the Republican Party and their own districts in their own states.
Yeah.
In this situation, they're talking about Trump is going to start doing monthly or like every other week doing some kind of visit. Right now, he's in Northwest Georgia, visiting, I think it's a steel plant, if I'm not mistaken, and a local business. Yeah. There's also a lot of conversation of the cabinet heads, the cabinet leaders, to start going and actually even finding opportunities to, something that's involving them, but to show like what the administration is able to do along with the midterms and campaign. It's like, if you want us to continue to be able to do this work, this is why we have to maintain the House.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of the president, of Vance, and of the cabinet heads playing like a dual role. Not only are they leading their department, but they're also campaigning, frankly.
Yep.
Because Susie Wiles said, she's like, we need to get Trump on the ballot. Like by proxy, he needs to be on the ballot.
And they're going to make this is going to be a firm push. I think because they understand that right now they need one or two topics that they can really champion and say, look at how Democrats are losing here. They need to grab the affordability conversation and own it and say, this is what we're going to do. And because Democrats are riding on that, and they're riding on the authoritarian thing, so Republicans have to continue delivering over and over and over again.
But I think it's interesting because to me, what it's looking like is that the Democrats are still, even though like their whole like thing is like affordability or whatever, or at least that's what they've tried to come off initially with, they just cannot help themselves with Trump bad, Republicans authoritarian, you know what I mean? Like, so it's again, this opposition as opposed to solution-driven campaign. Yes. And you even see that. So right now, the New York Times reported, which I think this is freaking wild. And this is why I keep saying that I think the Democrats are going to overplay their hand. So the New York Times is reporting that the Democrats, or some progressive Democrats, in partnership with some of these like activist organizations that have been planning these rallies, are going to hold a rally
during the State of the Union.
Of the State of the Union. That to me is insane.
I know. Aren't these people all about like preserving democracy and norms and wanting to like uphold respect for the office? Isn't that what they're always talking about, and how mad they are that Trump disrespects the office all the time? But they're going to be like, forget this stupid State of the Union. We're going to stage a protest. They're probably going to sing. There's going to be singing. That's all I know.
Of course there's going to be singing. There's always singing.
Wait.
Okay.
I can't wait.
But I just think, like, if you think about the last State of the Union, or it wasn't a State of the Union, but the congressional address that is like a State of the Union. I mean, we remember Al Green yelling. We remember the signs. We remember the buttons. We remember sitting on their hands and not applauding things that would objectively everybody should be applauding.
Right.
Like a young boy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and they looked really bad. I cannot fathom that holding a rally like this, an opposition protest during the State of the Union, when it's supposed to be a time of like, it is supposed to be somewhat unifying. It's supposed to be at a time that we, maybe you don't agree with it, but you just really want to understand and know what the State of the Union is,
Exactly. Yeah.
And that they're going to protest it, create a rally. Like, I can't even imagine the optics of it.
Right.
And here's what's wild. Okay. So I had this thought. So the State of the Union doesn't have to be at the Capitol. Like, it doesn't have to be at Congress.
It could be anywhere. There's not there's not that many rules around it. Are there?
It used to be a letter. It literally used to be a letter.
Let's do that again. I think I said this last season when it was a State of the Union, because I live on the East Coast, so they started at like, I don't know, a ridiculous hour. So I'm up until however long, especially when it's Trump and he'll talk forever, and then they clap in between every single thing. I'm like, let's go back to letter writing. Let's write a letter. Here's how it's going. That's what I want. This is what I want.
Well, I was like, why don't you, if you're going to make it political, why don't we take this thing on the road? Why don't you hold the State of the Union in Georgia? And
do it.
Open it up to like do a lottery and open it to some of the public or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, why don't you like take it on the road? Get it out of DC. If they're going to throw these,
because they're not going to travel to go protest. No. They're just not.
No, it's insane. I don't even know. Like, and this is why I think also like the administration should seriously consider like amplifying some of the policies that some of the most progressives are proposing. Like you have Jayapal right now still pushing like, I think like trans medicalization or something along those. Like there's all of these really that are not popular. They're like 20% issues.
Yeah.
So I would say, put a spotlight on them. Let people know this is what's going to happen if you flip this house.
Yes. Do it.
I think I think it makes sense. I don't know. Maybe they should hire us.
Yeah. We would be great consultants. Thank you.
Yes, this is a fact. But you know what is also being talked about that has me a little bit nervous is rumors that Alito is going to retire.
I know. I heard about that.
So
you know
the
what, though?
two-
Lots of people
yeah,
are saying, don't do a Ginsburg. Like,
absolutely.
retire
Absolutely.
now while Trump is in office. Him and Clarence Thomas, who I love Clarence Thomas, and I hope he doesn't. But then again, it's like they're getting old. They're not spring chickens anymore. And so if we
They're
want to be able
two
to
of
have
the oldest justices.
Yeah. So people are definitely floating that, like, don't do us dirty like the RBG did. So
I think it makes sense. I would I don't want to wish any ill will on
mhm,
a liberal justice, but
right.
Sotomayor is also not in great health.
Yeah.
But she's not going to retire during Trump. Are you crazy?
No, of
Like,
course
there's no way. Like,
No, it's
unfortunately with her, it would have to be like a Scalia situation or something
yeah.
where, or
That
a
was 10 years ago
Bader.
this month,
Yeah.
by the way. Can you believe that? I can't believe
I can't-
I'm not gonna say what I think, but I still don't think he died of natural causes. I'm just saying. Just
Oh,
gonna
I
put
did
that out
not
there.
know that.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
remember,
know
and you
that.
know what's so funny is I'm not conspiratorial about it. It is what it is. But
I was
I
like,
remember this was a decade ago. It was before I was like, deep in the weeds in politics and stuff. And I remember it flashing on my television screen. And I kind of just sat there for the rest of the day and watched coverage. And I remember thinking, my very first thought was, where was he? Oh, he was hunting.
yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if this was fixed. That's all I'm saying. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why that would be. I don't know why it'd be controversial to say something like that. We say it about every other high profile, politician or public figure. And especially as one of the most, prolific and popular conservative justices who has, been consequential to some of the largest, rulings. I don't know.
I remember, this is like a side story. I remember exactly where I was when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed,
Yeah.
because I was out to dinner with my husband and
Uh-huh.
we were, it's just the two of us. And so if it's a busy restaurant and there's a seat at the bar, we sit at the bar.
Yeah.
So this evening, we decided to sit at the bar. We're sitting at a corner. So we're
Uh-huh.
kind of like catty right next, like we can talk easily to
Right.
the people at the other corner. And I pick up my phone and I see the news and I gasp, I react.
Yeah.
My husband turns to me, what's going on? I tell him Ruth
Mhm.
Bader Ginsburg has passed. And the woman sitting across from me hears what I say. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And I said, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has just passed.
Uh-huh.
Apparently she's like a local news person.
Oh.
So she immediately was like, oh my
Bye,
God.
gotta go. Yeah.
Grabs her phone. She's like freaking out. She's on a date with some dude. You can
Poor
tell
guy.
that she's like, and he's like, who is that? And she looks at him like
She's
the
like,
whole
we're
thing
not
played out.
We're never going to another date again.
It played out like something I'd never seen before. And
Yeah.
she's like, you don't understand. Democracy is dead. I kid you not.
Okay.
That is what she said.
Yep. Of course it is. Right.
And
Because Ruth
like,
Bader, the RBG was upholding America's democrat system all by herself.
I mean, the whole thing,
Hilarious.
honestly, that experience, it's just so vivid in my mind because
Yes.
it was like a movie. It was like an
Yeah.
event. Like the
Uh-huh.
way she reacted, the way he was confused, the way that I was very much into politics and the weeds at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was interesting. And a lot of people are speculating that Alito might retire because of all the things, he has a book coming out
Yeah.
at the same time that the Supreme Court term begins.
Yeah. And he wants to go on tour. And
Yeah.
it's going to keep him real busy. Yeah. I heard that too.
And I'm like, it makes it kind of, and here's my thought and how this plays into the election, because I know that when Trump won his first term, one of the key things that led me to decide to vote for Trump was the fact that he released a list of who he was going to most likely appoint to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So that was one of the deciding factors for me, because I was very, very much on the fence with Trump the first time around. And honestly, even during midterm, like I've been on the fence multiple times when it comes to Trump.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's normal. I think.
Yeah. It's like I haven't been gun ho from the go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so like that was one of the so I'm thinking about Alito, and I feel like he needs, if he's going to retire, he needs to announce this before the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
Because
to light the fire under people's rear ends.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
Because a lot of
I
people
know a lot of people voted for Trump on multiple different times, knowing that Supreme Court justices needed to be, or at least he needed to be in office if and when a Supreme Court justice seat was opened. And that was a deciding factor for them, especially in 2016.
Absolutely.
Like, they said, I'm voting because I want to overturn Roe, or I'm voting because I need conservative justices on the bench. And it makes a difference.
It absolutely,
there's been talks happening for sure. For sure. He has a short list already ready. I guarantee it.
Absolutely. And I think it'll because not only is it that he chooses someone, but it's also because he can choose, like, let's say somebody passes away, he can like, if he's president, he chooses. The issue is confirming
the confirmation.
That.
Oh yeah, the confirmation
Correct.
hearings are gnarly.
So that's why you need to hold on to the Senate. And also it's helpful to obviously hold on to the House. Correct. So this is like a big deal. And that's why I feel like, I'm like, bro, if you're going to do this book tour,
do it now.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead and retire. Like, just go for it.
You've had a good long career. Get your book tour on. Get your autograph signing.
Get your book tour on.
Like, go. Enjoy it.
So, but yeah, that's kind of the state of play as I see it as we enter, like, this podcast would be the eve podcast to the State of the Union, which is, I would say, the midterm kickoff. So that's kind of how I see the state of play right now.
Yeah.
And in the world, in the politics, in the world that we're in right now, like the news cycle that we are in right now, we are ages away from election, but also it's coming fast. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like a little bit of both. We're ages away in the sense of like anything can change on a dime.
Yeah.
But there's also like a ton of time for things to go sideways.
Sideways. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but before I finish us up, I wanted to talk about, you don't know this story, and I don't think maybe a lot of people don't know this story, but I have very strong feelings about this story, and I want to talk about it. Can we talk about it for a minute?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It has to do with the Olympics. Now, yes, I am deep into curling stone gate in the Olympics. If you don't know what I'm talking about.
Are we going to talk about curling? Is there a controversy? No. Okay, great.
Well, there is a controversy, and that one is a good one, but this one I find much more fascinating.
Okay.
So, do you know who Eileen Gu is?
No idea.
Okay.
Should I know? I should probably know, but I don't know.
Well, let me give you a rundown. So Eileen Gu is the most decorated freestyle skier right now. She is 22 years old. She is I think she's like half Chinese. Her mother is Chinese. So her mother came over, I think in the 80s or 90s as a student and has stayed in the United States since then. And she's like, and she raised Eileen on her own. And so they're based their entire time on the West Coast. Eileen is 22 years old. She has trained in the United States. She lives in San Francisco. She studied, I think, like physics or something at Stanford University. Okay. And she is skiing for China.
What?
Yeah.
Who's paying her? Who's paying her to do that? What do you mean she's skiing for China? Why?
China. Okay.
China. Why? Who's paying her to do that?
Literally China. Literally China.
How is that okay?
China.
Does she live in China? Does she have dual citizenship in China? How is that not against some kind of Olympic? That's against rules. There have to be rules. Some Ukrainian guy can't wear a helmet.
I knew this was going to set you off. I knew this was going to set you off.
Some Ukrainian guy cannot wear a helmet honoring the people who have been killed in his country at war. But this lady can go ski for another country? Is she a citizen? Is she a dual citizen?
Okay, so that's the issue here, okay? There's a lot of questions that aren't being addressed. And the only reason that it is known or believed, let's put it this way. So the United States is one of the only countries that does not pay their athletes. The athletes are paid via donors and via programs, okay? There are other countries that do pay their athletes, mainly communists, especially Soviet or any kind of country. So like Russia, for example, in China, they will pay their athletes. However, it's usually not like some exorbitant amount because typically you're an athlete from China. And so you don't really need that much money or whatever. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But there was a leak, I believe, of some financial doc. I have to look into exactly what the leak was. I'm trying to remember. But the point is that this leak exposed that like, here it goes. The Wall Street Journal, Gu and fellow American-born Zhu Yi received combined. So there's another American-born skier for them. I think she's a skater. Combined $6.6 million from Beijing's Sports Bureau in 2025. So now she is considered to be way more successful as an athlete than this skater. So the belief is that she's getting a much larger portion of that 6.6 million than this other skater is. So she's being paid millions of dollars by China. Okay. She says that she decided to do it to honor her mother's Chinese heritage. I call new.
Again, my questions remain. Is she a citizen of China? Is she a dual citizen? I need to understand this.
Okay. So
secondly, where are the I do. Hold please. Where are the Olympic rules? Where are the rules? What is the point of having nations compete if the people aren't from the nation they're competing for?
I don't think you have to be like, I don't know if you necessarily have to be from there. And, or if you can like, because here's the deal, answering your question about citizenship. So there is a report that, so I think she has one of her sponsors was Red Bull, if I'm not mistaken. And that somewhere on their website, when they did a bio on her, they included that she had become a Chinese national or like a Chinese citizen.
Okay.
So, but then they removed it and she will not answer any questions because legally in China, she can't have dual citizenship. And the question also becomes, does China require her to be a Chinese national? Or that's the question I would have to investigate, which I don't know, is whether the Olympics require you to have a citizenship in the country that you represent. Because, you know, Americans often, there are many Americans that have dual citizenship. So they'll have a U.S. passport and like a Swedish passport, for example. And because the opportunities are better for them to qualify for the Olympics, for example, if they compete as a Swede, then they decide to go and represent Sweden. But that's not the case with China. China does not allow dual citizenship. So then the question becomes that if they don't allow dual citizenship and you're required to be, I don't know this, I don't have to look this up, but if you're required to be a citizen of a country to represent them in the Olympics, then the assumption would be that she has renounced her U.S. citizenship and that she is a Chinese citizen. Okay. But that question is like out there.
But
I don't know.
Shouldn't that kind of be like, I don't know, buttoned up before she gets to compete?
I
feel like these are, I'm not expecting you to know the answers. I'm expecting somebody to know them. And what I don't like is we're just getting fast and loose with like, she's a citizen here, but she's going to compete. Like, I don't understand.
Well, and it's not that like, it's not even like she is now living in China and trains in China.
She lives here, right?
She lives in San Francisco.
And she trains here?
Yeah. And she trains like in other countries too, because a lot of times they'll go and train in like Austria, for example, or something like that, because they have better terrain. So the training isn't so much a big deal. But also, she competed in the Beijing Olympics in 2022 and represented China. Right. And so she tries to make it like, oh, you know, I just like, I want to honor my mother. And so I want to represent her heritage.
So
and
honor her by living in China. Go live there.
My thing is like, you clearly, like, I call bogus. Okay.
Yeah.
I call bogus. She has millions of dollars in sponsorship, not just American companies, but Chinese companies. She's being paid millions of dollars to ski for China. The United States will not pay her. Okay. Like it is about the dollar bills. Okay. Don't tell me that this is about the heritage or whatever. And then one of the most wild things is this right here. So she was asked, like, she has talked openly criticizing the United States in their racism against Asian in
course.
people, especially during the Asian hate, like Stop Asian Hate movement around 2020. She's been pro BLM. She's
Of
been
course.
very critical about she even said something like that the Asian hate in the United States was akin to like domestic terrorism or something
Goodbye.
like that. Like that was the
Bye.
comparison that she made while she is skating or skiing or whatever for China.
Yeah.
China, okay? Who she was asked. So I was like, you know what?
So good.
That virtue is up for sale. Let me tell you, okay? So she did an interview with Time Magazine where they asked her, so what about the Uyghur situation in China?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, let's talk about it.
The Uyghur genocide.
Mhm,
Let's see
mhm.
what she had to say about that, okay? This is the clip here. She goes and she is asked about it and she says, I'm not an expert on this. I haven't done the research. I don't think it's my business. I'm not going to make big claims on my social media. I'm just more of a skeptic when it comes to data in general. So it's not like I can read an article and be like, oh, well, that must be the truth. I need to have a ton of evidence. I need to maybe go to the place, maybe talk to 10 primary sources, people who are in a location that have experienced life there. Then I need to go and see images. I need to listen to recordings. I need to think about how history affects it. Then I need to read books on how much politics affect it, because this is lifelong research. So I can't take the time.
She
I
can
can't
say,
take the time.
yeah, but
to
she
do all
like
that.
did she do all the research before she made the claim that like Americans are domestic terrorists towards Asians?
This is, to me,
It's
she is
incredible.
the epitome of like this new wave of progressivism and socialism and like they love her. Okay. I just literally watched a reel of this guy that says something like Eileen Gu is better than you was the whole, like the line.
Mhm.
And so she's
Yes.
better than you because she's beautiful. She's better than you because she's a decorated athlete, because she graduated Stanford, because she's like super intelligent and all these things. I was like, interesting how we're not talking about how like she sold herself for millions of dollars
Right.
to
the
an
highest bidder.
oppressive regime
Right.
at the high. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, if all of these things applied and she was skiing in the United States and let's say she was a Christian
Yeah.
and or she was, I don't know, of Chinese heritage, and so maybe she spoke against communism and the dangers of communism, she would not be getting all of this like love.
No chance.
And so JD Vance was asked about this during an interview.
Okay.
You want to see what
I
he
want to
said?
hear it.
I'm gonna play it for you.
Gu is skiing for China. You were at the Olympics at the Open. Ennis Cantor has said she's a traitor. Some people have said that this is a treasonous to ski for China and to overlook Jimmy Lai and the Uyghurs and pretend like those things aren't problems is a huge problem. What do you think her status should be? Should it be changed?
Well, look, I'm not gonna. I have no idea what her status should be. I think that's ultimately up to the Olympics Committee. I won't pretend to wade into that. I certainly think that somebody who grew up in the United States of America, who benefited from our education system, from the freedoms and liberties that make this country a great place, I would hope that they want to compete with the United States of America. So I'm going to root for American athletes, and I think part of that is people who identify themselves as Americans. That's who I'm rooting for this Olympics.
I'm with you on that one. Thank you very much, Vice President.
Very diplomatic.
I wish he would have gone like old school Vance on that one and told us what he really thinks. I would have appreciated
Look,
that.
I think about this and I get really irritated by this type of stuff. Like when
I
you
can't
are,
tell. I can't tell at all.
because like when you go over there and you are what she is not living a life of an
No, I know.
average Chinese national.
Of course not.
Okay.
Right.
She has no idea. She is literally just laying like, yeah, she's skiing. Okay, fine. She earned it. But she's not working hard for it in the sense of like, she's not fighting for any, it's literally being handed to her.
Yeah.
It's being handed to her to prop up the propaganda of China, to
Yes.
elevate their status, their image, and they're like, I cannot. I'm like, this woman irritate. And then there's actually, I wish I had pulled the clip, but she was asked, because she ended up getting 2 silvers and losing 2 golds. And so this journalist asked her, like, what is your perspective? Did you lose 2 golds or did you gain 2 silvers? And she does this really obnoxious, like, laugh and says, I'm the most decorated free skier with 5 medals and da-da-da. And she has the most California Valley accent.
Do you have a video? I do not know who this lady is.
Okay, hold on. I will play because
Find
clearly I will, how do you spell her name? Eileen Gu. She's like all over the place. I can't believe you haven't seen this.
I know.
Okay, wait, is this the clip? Yes, this is the clip. Hold on. Here we go. You ask, I shall deliver. Eileen Gu. Ew.
So do you see these as 2 silvers gained or 2 golds lost?
I'm the most decorated female free skier in history. I think that's an answer in and of itself. How do I say this? Winning a medal at the Olympics is a life-changing experience for every athlete. Doing it 5 times is exponentially harder because every medal is equally hard for me, but everybody else's expectations rise, right? And so the 2 medals lost situation, to be quite frank with you, I think is kind of a ridiculous perspective to take. I'm showcasing my best skiing. I'm doing things that quite literally have never been done before. And so I think that is more than good enough. But thank you.
Also,
Wow.
So that is Eileen Gu.
Say, wow. Is her mother alive?
Yeah. Yeah. Her mom's a single mom. She lives with her mom. I think she bought her family home. Like,
she lives with her mom in San Francisco.
Yes.
Her mom lives here.
Yes.
And she is flying. She is competing for a different country she doesn't even live in. She is the epitome of privilege. Like we talk about that, we're derided if you're white and, you're able to like homeschool your kids, or you're white and you live in you're privileged. You have your white privilege.
But she has the right politics.
Right.
That's the thing.
That's elitist privilege right there. That's insane to me.
So, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up on that note.
On that note, dang.
I was like, if she doesn't know, this is going to be a good one, because I've been heated about this one. I was like, I am
going to tell my Chinese husband about this and see what he has to say about Miss Wu.
I want Gu. It's Gu.
Gu. Sorry. I'll get called racist for that. But I'm going to tell my Asian husband about this and see what he thinks.
For sure. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up for today's episode of Rivera and Reeves. If this is your first time here, welcome. You have found your new favorite podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button wherever you're listening. We're on all major podcast apps. We publish to YouTube our video the day after. But if you want to listen to us ad-free the moment I hit publish, please consider becoming a paying supporter on our Substack, where you get exclusive episodes once a month, get to participate in lives, and you also get this episode and every episode ad-free. Also, make sure you check out our individual Substacks. I need to remember to mention our Substacks at the top. I'm so bad at this. Okay. It's like, also, we have Substacks too. And if you're already a Rivera and Reeves subscriber, or if you subscribe to either one of our Substacks, hit me a DM or Rachel a DM, and we will share an exclusive discount code that will kind of create a package deal for you. Yeah, that's it. So I want to hear what Sean has to say about Miss Gu. Okay?
Yes, Miss Gu. I'm going to ask, and what do you, dear listener, think about Miss Gu? That's what I want to know.
Yes. Leave it in the comments. I definitely want to know. All right. Yeah. So that's it. We'll see you on Tuesday with a special episode, I guess. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. We need to figure out if we're going to do anything special for the State of the Union.
Well, I think we might have a little surprise in the bag. Do you remember?
Yeah. That's why I was like, do I mention it? I don't know. We'll see. We're still working it out. But otherwise, we'll see you again on Tuesday for another episode of Rivera and Reeves. In the meantime, here's a reminder that the media is trash and we have no tolerance for it. Okay, bye.